Alrighty, today we're reading the second part of Character Defects out of As Bill Sees It. Michael's going to start us off on 142.
142, God-given instincts. Creation gave us instincts for a purpose. Without them, we wouldn't be complete human beings. If men and women didn't exert themselves to be secure in their persons, made no effort to harvest food or construct shelter, there would be no survival. If they didn't reproduce, the earth wouldn't be populated. If there were no social, no society. Yet these instincts, so necessary for our existence, often far exceed their proper functions. Powerfully, blindly, many times subtly, they drive us, dominate us, and insist upon ruling our lives. We tried to shape a sane ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and to help us to live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed.
Alrighty, our next reading is 149. Guide to a Better Way. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the steps require. But we saw that the program really worked in others, and we had come to believe in the hopelessness of life as we had been living it. When, therefore, we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up this simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. Implicit throughout AA's traditions is the confession that our fellowship has its sins. We admit that we have character defects as a society and that these defects threaten us continually. Our traditions are a guide to a better way of working and living, and they are to group survival and harmony what AA's 12 steps are to each member's sobriety and peace of mind.
Okay.
So you're 196. You're doing Antidote for Fear.
Hey, Antidote for Fear, page 196. When our failings generate fear, we then have soul sickness. This sickness, in turn, generates still more character defects. Unreasonable fear that our instincts will not be satisfied drives us to covet the possessions of others, to lust for sex and power, to become angry when our instinctive demands are threatened, to be envious when the ambitions of others seem to be realized while ours are not. We eat, drink, and grab for more of everything than we need, fearing we shall never have enough. And with genuine alarm at the prospect of work, we stay lazy. We loaf and procrastinate, or at best work grudgingly and under half steam. These fears are the termites that ceaselessly devour the foundations of whatever sort of life we try to build. As faith grows, so does inner security. The vast underlying fear of nothingness commences to subside. We of AA find that our basic antidote for fear is a spiritual awakening. Ooh, I love that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. 204. Should be very easy to get to, but not. The building of character. Since most of us are born with an abundance of natural desires, it isn't strange that we often let those far exceed their intended purpose. When they drive us blindly, we will willfully demand that they supply us with more satisfactions, plural, or pleasures than are possible or due us. That is the point at which we depart from the degree of perfection God wishes for us here on earth. That is the measure of our character defects, or if you wish, of our sins. If we ask God, will certainly forgive our derelictions. But in no case does he render us white as snow and keep us that way without our cooperation. That is something we are supposed to be willing to work towards ourselves. He asks only that we try as best we know how to make progress in the building of character. Okay, you're 216.
After the honeymoon, page 216. For most of us, the first years of AA are something like a honeymoon. There is a new and potent reason to stay alive. Joyful activity aplenty. For a time, we are diverted from the main life problems. That is all to the good. But when the honeymoon has worn off, we are obliged to take our lumps like other people. This is where the testing starts. Maybe the group has pushed us onto the sidelines. Maybe difficulties have intensified at home or in the world outside. Then the old behavior patterns reappear. How well we recognize and deal with them reveals the extent of our progress. The wise have always known that no one can make much of life until self-searching becomes a regular habit, until he is able to admit and accept what he finds, and until he patiently and persistently tries to correct what is wrong.
All right. 258.
Okay.
You got there quicker than I did. All righty.
I did.
Beneath the surface. Some will object to many of the questions that should be answered in a moral inventory because they think their own character defects have not been so glaring. To these, it can be suggested that a conscientious examination is likely to reveal the very defects the objectionable questions are concerned with. Because our surface record hasn't looked too bad, we have frequently been abashed to find that this is so simply because we have buried these self-same defects deep down in us under thick layers of self-justification. Those were the defects that finally ambushed us into alcoholism and misery.
Okay.
You're 281.
281. Too far. Ourselves as individuals, page 281. There is only one test of all spiritual experiences. By their fruits ye shall know them. That is why I think we should question no one's transformation, whether it be sudden or gradual. Nor should we demand anyone's special type for ourselves, because experience suggests that we are apt to receive whatever may be the most useful for our own needs. Human beings are never quite alike, so each of us, when making an inventory, will need to determine what his individual character defects are. Having found the shoes that fit, he ought to step into them and walk with new confidence that he is at last on the right track.
All righty. 301. To rebuild security. In our behavior respecting financial and emotional security, fear, greed, possessiveness, and pride have too often done their worst. Surveying his business or employment record, almost any alcoholic can ask questions like these. In addition to my drinking problems, what character defects contribute to my financial instability? Did fear and inferiority about my fitness for a job destroy my confidence and fill me with conflict? Or did I overvalue myself and play the big shot? Business women in AA will find that these questions often apply to them too, and the alcoholic housewife can also make the family financially insecure. Indeed, all alcoholics need to cross-examine themselves ruthlessly to determine how their own personality defects have demolished their security.
Okay.
311.
Telling the worst, page 311. Though the variations were many, my main theme was always how god-awful I am. Just as I often exaggerated my modest attainments by pride, so I exaggerated my defects through guilt. I would race about confessing all, and a great deal more, to whoever would listen. Believe it or not, I took this widespread exposure of my sins to be great humility on my part, and considered it a great spiritual asset and consolation. But later on, I realized at depth that the great harms I had done others were not truly regretted. These episodes were merely the basis for storytelling and exhibitionism. With this realization came the beginning of a certain amount of humility.
Ooh, that was good. 325. Humility brings hope. Now that we no longer patronize bars and bordellos, now that we bring home the paychecks, now that we are so very active in AA, and now that people congratulate us on these signs of progress, well, we naturally proceed to congratulate ourselves. Of course, we are not yet within hailing distance of humility. We ought to be willing to try humility in seeking the removal of our other shortcomings, just as we did when we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and came to believe that that power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. If humility could enable us to find the grace by which the deadly alcohol obsession could be banished, then there must be hope of the same result respecting any other problem we can possibly have. And our last reading, 327.
Three choices, 327. The immediate object of our quest is sobriety, freedom from alcohol, and from all its baleful consequences. Without this freedom, we have nothing at all. Paradoxically, though we can achieve no liberation from the alcohol obsession until we become willing to deal with those character defects which have landed us in that helpless condition, in this freedom quest, we are always given three choices. A rebellious refusal to work upon our glaring defects can be an almost certain ticket to destruction, or perhaps for a time we can stay sober with a minimum of self-improvement and settle ourselves into a comfortable but often dangerous mediocrity, half measures. Or finally, we can continuously to try hard for those sterling qualities that can add up to fineness of spirit and action, true and lasting freedom under God.